Hey everyone, it is Traci, and I am coming to you today by myself for another episode of WTF Menopause. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. And today we're going to be talking about what happens even while we're losing the weight and how we feel about ourselves, how we um, manage some of the internal demons that go on even while we're having a success with losing weight. This is something that hit me as a surprise when I was losing my weight. I was not expecting to deal with some of these internal struggles because I thought I'm doing exactly what I want. I want to lose this weight. This is an amazing thing. I'm so excited. I'm fitting into the things that I want to wear. I'm feeling better about myself, but yet at the same time, I'm also struggling with this feeling of not good enough, this feeling of, nitpicking every little piece of flaw that I perceive. And so I've started to really dig into this and really try to understand what's going on. And some of it I already knew through my work in women's studies and excuse me, I don't know why, as soon as I turn on the microphone, my throat goes crazy. But I know how some of this stuff happens, but until it actually happens to you, it starts to really make it real. It starts to make it personal, and it makes it something that a little more difficult to navigate when you're going through it. So one of the things that I hear a lot with my clients and other women who are in this time of life, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, they usually come to me because they want to lose weight, because they've gained weight without doing anything different. They feel like their world is turned upside down. And I'm sure that you feel this way as well, that even though nothing has changed in their eating patterns, in their routines, that the weight still happens. And there's a feeling of like complete loss of control. You feel like the world is upside down. You feel like that there's no more control, that everything you've done in the past is not working. And so you end up feeling very out of sorts. A lot of us do take this and internalize this. And this is where it gets dangerous, because we've had so much internalized junk over the years telling us what we should and shouldn't be, that this starts to really become a pattern. Many women tell me that they hate their bodies. And I'm sure we've all said that at one point or another. We've certainly heard it from a friend, a loved one. If we haven't said it to ourselves, we've heard this. It's very much a part of our culture to hear a woman say that they hate their body or they hate a part of their body. This is a very common, so common that it doesn't even many times get register that this is something that's being said, that this is a problem to say this. So the other things that I hear are women saying that they're disgusted with their bodies. They're disgusted with themselves. They feel disgusting. They feel gross. They feel they feel fat. They feel awful about their bodies. And this is really damaging. And we've heard, like I said, we've heard it so much that it's really hard to even separate this out. And having this negative self-talk is not serving us. And I think we all know this, right? We all know we shouldn't be thinking these things about ourselves, but it's a very hard cycle to break. We have this culture which tells us that we need to be basically dissatisfied with ourselves because we're getting mixed messages. We're supposed to, be skinny, but not too skinny. We're not supposed to be fat, but we're not supposed to be, it's just ridiculous. And we're not supposed to look old. We're not supposed to look too young. We're supposed to be sexy. We're supposed to be, there's just all these crazy back and forth narratives. And I'm going to drop a link in the show notes. There's this poem that's read by Cynthia Nixon. If you haven't seen it, it's really telling. It really hits home this idea of all these messages that we're getting as women on what we're supposed to be, but yet they're opposites. And we can't, how do you reconcile being opposites, right? How does this play into what I'm talking about today? Well, we know that we're supposed to love ourselves, but yet it's so easy to look at our body and be unhappy with it, especially now because things like we all know, they aren't doing the things that we're used to. They're really a challenge sometimes to change, to navigate, to all of a sudden everything that worked doesn't work. So now what do we do and how do we manage this? And here's the thing, our bodies are doing things, right? Our hormones are changing. That's kind of the foundation of it, right? That's something that happens, whether we want it to or not. It happens. Sometimes, and we can change this, but we're going to set that aside for a second. So part of this whole thing is we're aging, right? We are dealing with that. That is a part of this whole process. We're dealing with the fact that, oh my gosh, my hormones are changing. This means I'm going into this next stage. Now that means I am getting older. What does that mean for me? What does that mean for my appearance? What does that mean for how I present myself in the world? What does that mean for my job? What does that mean for my relationships, my sex life, all of the things? So we're dealing with all of this at the same time our body's kind of like doing crazy shit. But here's the thing that really gets us, that really, really gets us. So yes, we have this physiological change. We don't really have a choice. We can have, there are things we can do to mitigate it, but the changes are happening. Okay. But we are putting a value judgment on what's happening to our bodies. So what do I mean by that? We're basically saying, and I'm going to use weight because that is a very, like the most common thing that women complain or are dissatisfied about when they hit this stage of life. When we gain the weight, we essentially tell ourselves it's our fault. We're lazy. We're not working hard enough to do the things to get the weight off, which translates to we're worthless, we're hopeless, there's no way to get past this, that there is something inherently wrong with us because of this. And that's bullshit. It's absolute and utter bullshit. There's nothing wrong with you or me. It's changing, and that is simply a fact. The value judgment that we place on that change, that it makes us a bad person or it makes us hate our body. We can't do that. That takes something that we don't have well, we have some control. I will say we have control over how we approach this. But our bodies are changing, period. That doesn't make you anything other than somebody going through a change. The way you define that change is going to be how you navigate this in a way that can be helpful, healthy, and productive, or hurtful, destructive, and ultimately a suffering state. So we have a choice in how we can approach it, but we don't necessarily have a choice in our bodies doing what they're doing. And so by putting in that value judgment, by making ourselves bad because of this, we're essentially saying that it's bad to go through this stage of life, which again is bullshit, because it's a natural state of existence for women. We and men go through their own hormonal changes, so they're not immune. But we're not talking about them, we're talking about us. So we have the opportunity to approach this differently. If you keep telling yourself that you hate your body, that you're lazy, that you are disgusting, or whatever other adjective that you use when you look at your body, look at yourself, your brain and your body are going to act in accordance to that. When we tell ourselves things, and a lot of times we don't even realize we're doing this. This is this deep programming that happens from pretty much from birth about what it is to be female. And we don't even consciously always understand or know what we're doing. And so that's tough. We got to really be vigilant in that respect. But by creating this commentary, essentially this running commentary about, well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm lazy, whatever, that is going to play out in your body, that is going to play out in your mind, because what we think about, where we put our energy, is what happens. And while we don't have necessarily an opportunity to change the hormones, I mean, we have some things, but again, when this starts to happen, looking at this from a different perspective is going to make a huge difference. Okay. One of the things I strongly believe is that this time of life brings up all the crap we've been stuffing for so long. We've had a lot of insecurities over the years. We've had a lot of fear over the years. We've felt inferior in our bodies. We felt inferior in our presence in the world, taking up space, all the things, we've been, instead of being assertive, we're told we're bossy. Instead of being smart, we're told we're, trying to be something we're not. There's so many things that we've stuffed because of circumstances, because society tells us, because our family tells us, because our relationships, all of the things that we've tried to manage over these years is starting to come up, because our things are changing. Like I've said all this time, things are changing, right? So we're going to find, our filters break. And I think that's on purpose, because we need to start living in a world, in a body, in a place where we finally can live fully, wholly, complete. And we're not going to get there if we're telling ourselves that we're lazy or fat, whatever, that we hate our bodies. We easily begin to separate ourselves from ourselves, I should say. We separate from ourselves when we do that, because it's like, again, it's that dichotomy. We want to love ourselves, but we struggle with this version of ourselves. And in order to truly move forward and to move past some of this hurt, we need to be able to love ourselves before we even get to that weight, that goal weight that we want. Because you can get there. Did it. Got there, got my weight, thrilled to death, super happy. But guess what? Still found the flaws. Still found, oh, look, I still have that gut. God bless it. Why can't I get rid of that? Why can't I just have this? Why can't I just have that? When I've lost 60 freaking pounds, probably saved myself from some strokes, probably a heart attack, at least congestive heart failure, because I have family histories of all these things, and still can't be happy with the fact that I've decreased all of these problems in my, potential problems in my life, because I don't like the way my stomach looks today, because I don't like the way my arms flap a little bit in the wind. That is such bullshit. And I catch myself doing this. And I've been doing the work to really change that narrative, so that when I see myself, catch myself looking at myself in the mirror, being critical, I stop and I change the thought immediately. Because the more I can catch it and change it, the easier it is to stop doing it. So I encourage you to start thinking and catching yourself in that respect, because it is going to change so much for you. You have so much to offer. You have so much to give. You have so much to live and be that person that you've been just aching to be for so long. We have the opportunity to make these deep changes. And it's not easy. I'm not going to pretend that it is, but it's worth it. It's totally, totally worth it. You guys, you have no idea how much it's worth it. It can be so freeing to break through those negative feelings and those horrible, horrible self-talks that we give ourselves. And sometimes we hear it from the people that are supposed to love us the most, right? We can stand up for ourselves in those places too, but we got to believe it first for ourselves. And if you don't believe it first for yourself, you're not going to stand up for yourself in any other space. And that is key. And when my clients come to me, that's why they come to me to start losing the weight, but it's really more than that. And I've shifted my program actually because of that, because I don't want anyone thinking this is just strictly a weight loss program. It's not. It's a entire whole person change. We're changing from the inside out, because the weight can come off, but that doesn't make us love ourselves more. And this is what needs to happen in order. And actually, it's really interesting. The more you love yourself, the easier it is to lose the weight, because it's easier to make the choices that are best for you, because your values, your love yourself is a value first, then the choices for food and exercise and all the things that you need to do to make those changes, which are going to be hard, but they're going to be a lot easier once you've gotten this other piece in place, bringing in the self-love, the self-worth, incorporating the body and the mind and the spirit all together, so that it's all connected together, working in the same way, moving in the right direction, so that we can truly become transformed through menopause. Because it's absolutely, totally, as crazy as it sounds, we've made menopause into this horrible, horrible, horrible thing. And I'm not discounting the fact that we feel horrible at times. But as a society, we've turned it into this big, awful, ugly, disgusting secret that we have to hide. And it's not. There's so much that can come out of it that is positive. And we can look at it this way, in a way that really changes the perspective, changes our minds, changes the way we approach it, which then can change how we feel in the long run, because what happens in our minds happens in our bodies. And if we are feeling like menopause is shit and I don't want to be here and I'm going to be mad and I'm going to be upset and I'm going to feel like crap and it doesn't matter what I do, then yeah, you're going to feel like shit, you're going to feel like crap, and it's not going to matter what you do. But if you think of it as, this is an opportunity to change, and this is an opportunity to really grow into the person I really want to be, that person I've been dreaming about forever and have set aside for family and, responsibilities and other obligations. Now this is an opportunity for us to really grow and bloom into a person that we can just absolutely love. It's totally possible. And it weight's part of it, but it's not the whole part. And you can keep the weight and be the happiest person on the planet. And I think that's way better than losing the weight and being miserable, for sure. So if you are struggling with this, I am going to encourage you to join my Facebook program or Facebook group, because coming up on March 23rd, I'm doing a free workshop, which is called Menopause Doesn't Have to Suck, because that's kind of been my tagline lately. And I think it encapsulates this idea. Menopause doesn't have to suck. We can find happiness, joy, health, and all of these things in our transition. And during this workshop, we're going to talk about, nutrition. We're going to talk about mindset blueprints, which is changing the way we think. We're going to talk about the mind-body connection, and we're going to look at food. And it's just going to be a huge, wonderful, amazing program that's going to help you take those steps to become this person that you've been dreaming about for so long. And it's a totally free workshop. And I personally think it's fantastic. I've been just coming up with braingasms all over the place about all this great stuff that we're going to do. And I just can't wait to share it with you all. Again, that's on March 23rd, so not far away. So definitely get into the Facebook group, and you can get there through the link in the show notes, which is at www.wtfmenopause.com, and then just click on WTF podcast, and you'll find the show for today, and it will give you all the links that you need. And then the group's name, shockingly, WTF Menopause. So you can look it up on Facebook that way as well. And jump into the group. We've got a really great group growing, and we're going to have some awesome fun. We're going to have a great time. We're going to talk more about how to change the way we think about ourselves. We're going to talk about how to align our values with what we're going to do in our changes through menopause. There's just going to be so much that we're going to be able to dig into and clear up. And you're going to it's going to blow your mind. I just know it. So I invite you to do that. And I will see you there in the group. And as always, I hope you have a great week. If you're enjoying this show, please, please, please help other women find the show by giving a review or a rating in whatever podcast platform you're listening to this in. And that will help us get the word out to more women, so that they also don't have to feel like menopause sucks for them as well. So I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you next week.